The movie opens with a man filming a woman for a homemade movie. The man asks if the woman sees them being together in the future, and she replies that she doesn't know because their parents aren't the best role models. The woman's name is Vita, and the man is Arthur, and they have just met at a nightclub. Vita is a rich girl, the daughter of a doctor and a former musician, and she's following her mother and grandmother's footsteps in being a cellist. She's pretty and a bit all over the place, which makes her perfect for Arthur. He's the opposite of Vita. Handsome in a rugged way, with shaggy blonde hair and a scruffy beard. He is from a working-class Welsh family, and he loves photography and animation. His dream is to work as an animator or director, but his father wants him to work with him to help the family out. Meeting Vita is life-changing for Arthur. They have great chemistry, and their love burns fast and bright. The day they met while lying in bed and caressing each other, Vita confesses to Arthur that she loves him. He doesn't say it back because he doesn't love her, but it feels good to him to hear someone say they love him. Arthur has a hard life at home. He's in the shadow of his older brother, Ron, who passed away when he was just 18. His family never got over the accident, mainly his father, and they put all their expectations on Arthur. For that reason, Arthur doesn't feel loved or seen by his parents, and he clings to Vita, who didn't make him feel invisible. The issue with the relationship is that they don't have a lot in common. Vita is rich, spoiled, and sees the world through colored lenses. Arthur never had any money and he feels disconnected from his family. Vita is all about love and romance, and Arthur thinks more of intimacy and lust. Despite their differences, they find a sense of kinship with one another that makes them feel less lonely. Vita plays the cello and is trying to enter the Philharmonic. It's her mother's dream for her to be a great musician like her grandmother, but Vita is unsure if that's what she wants to do for the rest of her life. She grew up under her mother's high expectations, and she never felt as if she had a choice in what to do. Arthur makes animations in his free time, and when Vita watches them, she is impressed. His animations are a mix of social critique and sarcasm, and he uses people in his life as characters. Arthur explains to Vita that he can't go to art school because he needs a stable job, but she thinks he's wasting his talent. Vita doesn't understand Arthur's decision because she never had to work to make ends meet. They start dating more seriously as the days go by. During Hanukkah, Arthur is introduced to her posh Jewish family. Her father, Dr. Levy, is nice and open-minded. He doesn't care that Vita is dating Arthur, as long as she uses protection and is happy. Her mother, Ethel, isn't as comfortable. With her high expectations for Vita, she thinks Arthur doesn't have a place in her life. When she asks what he does for a living, he explains he works as a courier to pay for his economics school. He proudly says that he wants to be an accountant. Ethel snidely replies that she hopes her daughter can be happy with an accountant, and Arthur realizes that she's looking down on him. He doesn't mention it to Vita. She loves her mother and is very close to her family, and bad-mouthing them wouldn't be a good idea. The only thing he says is that her mother has a strange sense of humor. Vita invites Arthur to move in with her and gives him the key to her flat as a gift. Despite being fast, Arthur is happy that she's taking him seriously. When it's time for Vita to meet Arthur's family, things don't go smoothly either. While her family looked down on him for being poor, his family looked down on her for being rich. They have no idea why Arthur is dating a person they consider out of his league, and they make fun of her. Mainly Arthur's adopted brother, Leon. Vita realizes that Arthur's mother coddles him, and finds it funny. The only reason she does it, though, is because she reflects the passing away of Ron on Arthur. Arthur's father, George, is a quiet and somber man. He doesn't interact much with Vita, even when Arthur tells him that she plays the cello. His father plays the tuba. Vita eats greasy food, trying hard to not make faces, and they have to sleep separately. It's all very strange to Vita, seeing the other side of life that she had no idea about. The following day, Arthur accidentally records Leon saying bad things about Vita behind her back. He doesn't defend her, but he gets upset that his brother is treating her poorly without getting to know her better. When they have a moment alone, Vita asks Arthur about his brother Ron and soon realizes that it's a sore spot for Arthur. He doesn't like talking about Ron. It's a taboo in his house because his father feels so bad about it. Vita insists and Arthur finally explains that his brother passed away from heart failure. She tells him that he should animate Ron, to give his family something they could cherish, but Arthur quickly gets angry and tells her it's none of her business. Vita disagrees. She thinks that because they are in a relationship she can give her opinion. She thinks Arthur is wasting his talent and that he should show his animations to the world. It's hard for Arthur to achieve his dream, when his whole life, he knew he would have to work like his father to make ends meet. After they meet each other's families, life goes on for Vita and Arthur. They are a passionate couple, and everything they do is over the top. They get fake married one day, just to have a few laughs, but it makes Arthur wonder how their laugh would be if he married her. Vita starts worrying more about her future. The day of her audition at the Philharmonic is approaching and she's getting nervous about failing. Though she tells Arthur she loves him, she doesn't see their relationship going far. Arthur asks her what her parents would say if they really got married, and she says that it's not even a possibility. Arthur immediately turns defensive because he thinks she doesn't think he is good enough for her. But Vida has a certain lifestyle that wouldn't match what Arthur wants to do. She's rich and used to a bohemian life filled, and Arthur is working class. Vida denies that she thinks he's less than her, but deep down she knows that they don't match. A few days later, Vida tries talking about Ron again and gives Arthur the idea of making a party to celebrate Ron's birthday. Arthur is against that because he knows his family wouldn't appreciate it, and they wouldn't come. Vida suggests they lie that it's their engagement party, but Arthur doesn't want to. Vida explains that it's obvious Arthur and his family have problems with Ron's passing, and they should try to overcome it. He doesn't like that she points out his family issues when her own are problematic. Vida doesn't think her family has any issues, but Ron thinks they are prejudiced and judging. At least Ethel is. They argue for some time about their family until Arthur finds a solution. If Vida invites her family to the party, he is going to invite his. Vida can't even imagine their families mingling and is against the idea. She knows her family won't like him, they are too different. Once again, Arthur accuses her of not thinking he's enough for her and being ashamed of their relationship. He's sad that she thinks like that, and Vida relents. She thinks it's going to be a disaster, but Arthur doesn't care if they hate each other. They should just know each other first. Vida tells him she loves him, and when he doesn't say it back, she starts crying. Arthur asks what happened, and she tells him that he never says he loves her too. Arthur has a barrier with love because he never had it conventionally. His family isn't touchy-feely like hers, and he never had a girlfriend to say he loved before. He wonders if being with her isn't enough, and they stay silent. Vida only caresses him while he hugs her with a sad look on his face. Moving on, Arthur is watching the videos he made when they visited his family, and he accidentally plays the one where Leon is saying bad things about Vida. She overhears it and asks him to play it for her. Leon calls her a spoiled, rich Jew, and Vida immediately thinks he's discriminating against her race, but Arthur defends Leon. He points out that Ethel also says some bad and prejudiced things against other people, and Vida gets furious that he's offending her mother. She tells him to leave her flat and not come back. Arthur is in disbelief and hurt that she called it her flat instead of theirs. Once again, he's reminded of their differences and that Vida can be brash when she wants to be. He angrily informs her that if he leaves, he isn't coming back. Vida doesn't care. Arthur leaves the room but comes back a few moments later, and they get intimate. They never talk about their argument or how they offended each other and hurt their feelings with their words. Their relationship isn't easy as it was before. Their differences start becoming more apparent. Arthur is messy and disorganized, and he never helps Vida around the flat. She complains to him about the way he does things, leaving dirty dishes in the sink and not putting peanut butter in the fridge. Arthur throws the jar in her direction, expecting her to catch it, but it breaks on the floor. They both refuse to clean it up and blame the other for breaking it in the first place. It shows how they aren't willing to compromise and talk things through. Even though they pretend their problems aren't there, they're still bitter about things said and done. Arthur resents how Vida thinks she's better than him, and how that makes him feel less. Vida resents Arthur for being set in his ways and never listening to her. After their argument and the broken peanut butter jar, Vida gives him a brand new camera. It's more expensive than anything he ever had, and he's shocked. Vida wants him to follow his passion for photography and directing, and she gives him the camera as an incentive. Arthur records her and asks if she sees them together in the future. She replies that she doesn't know because their parents aren't the best role models. The day of their party with their parents arrives, and it's a chaotic mess. Vida's parents, mainly her mother, have no idea what they are doing there with the poor people. Her siblings mingle well with Arthur's siblings, and his sister shares a story about Leon. He was expelled from the army for being against a gay soldier. It's barbaric, and her siblings can't understand how they can be so cool about it. Levy tries to talk to George and find out if they have anything in common. Ethel judges everyone, and it's obvious her distaste for Arthur and his family. Arthur's mother, Sarah, is inappropriate and tells her parents details about her private life that they don't need to know. Leon tries to stay as far from everyone as he possibly can. Arthur and Vida are over the moon with happiness and don't care about the weirdness between their families. The party starts with them giving their vows of caring for each other and never making the other change. Arthur also records their relatives talking about their relationship, and it's obvious they have no idea why Arthur and Vida are together. Some of them only want their happiness. When Vida brings the cake to sing happy birthday to Ron, Arthur quickly stops her and says he's not ready for that. Later on, Vida overhears her mother and sister badmouthing Arthur's family and gets mad at them. They don't understand what Vida saw in Arthur, and they aren't trying. Ethel makes plans to meet with someone after the party, and George has a heart attack. Levy helps him out and nothing bad happens to him. The party is over, though, and Arthur has to go to the hospital with his family. There, his father begs him to come back to work with him. His mother insists Arthur accepts his father's last wishes, but Arthur gets angry at them because all they want to do is make him follow in Ron's footsteps. They never ask what he wants to do with his life and expect him to accept his status quo. It's not what Arthur wants, and he's tired of it. Vita made him see a new side to life, and he wants to do better. He doesn't want to work at an apathetic job and be unhappy for the rest of his life, like his father. Moving on, Ethel is in a hotel room with a handsome man. She's having an affair. She feels depressed that Vita seems to be wasting her life with Arthur. She had big plans for her daughter, and marrying a middle-class boy isn't it. Her lover tells her that he loves her and he wants to have a more serious relationship with her. Ethel gets angry and tells him to go. It seems they have had an affair for a long time. Back at Arthur's family home, his father is in the dark, crying over his life while he holds his tuba. He thinks about his oldest son, Ron, and how tragic his passing was. It's the middle of the night when someone calls Arthur. It's Vita's brother, and he has some bad news to tell her. Ethel passed away suddenly at the hotel she was staying with her lover. It's a shock for the entire family, especially for the children who had no idea their mother cheated on their father. They quickly go to Vita's family home and Levi tries to keep a light mood. He wants to make some traditional foods to pay homage to Ethel, but Vita's sister gets angry that he's pretending their mother wasn't in a room with another man. Vita starts crying over the loss of her mother and the mess that is in her family. Arthur told her they had issues, but she refused to see them. Her mother led a double life, unhappy with her real life, and her father knew everything. It's shocking to her that Levi isn't even angry. What she doesn't know is that her father blames himself for her mother being unhappy. She had so many dreams when they met and got married, but she had to let go of all of them to become a mother. It isn't an easy life, even though she loved her children deeply. Arthur, who was with Vita to support her, also receives a phone call. His father also passed away that day. He quickly goes home and sees his mother freaking out about the funeral. His siblings are alright, they already expected their father to pass due to his fragile health. Arthur doesn't know how to feel. The man was his father, but they never had a close relationship. After Ron passed away, his father was depressed and closed off. Not even his mother could make him come out of his shell. For that reason, their relationship was cold and distant. Vita leaves her family to give support to Arthur and his family. When they are carrying the coffin to the burial, they start laughing because they can't fit it through the corridor. It's a nice moment to forget the sadness of losing their father. Later on, Vita asks Arthur why he didn't go to her mother's funeral. Arthur explains that it's just a funeral and they should feel blessed that at least their parents had a quick and easy passing. Vita can't believe what he's saying and she gets angry because she didn't want her mother to go. She didn't even get to say goodbye to her. Arthur at least knew his father was sick and could pass at any time. Arthur rudely calls Vita a spoiled brat. Instead of getting angry, she's just sad that he still sees her like that. Vita wonders if Arthur has any passion in life or if he plans to just go with the flow for the rest of his life. Arthur feels like she's mistreating him again and lashes out. He says that if she doesn't want him the way he is, she can leave. They argue again because Vita's annoying Arthur and he isn't in the mood to play. When they relax a little and can talk normally again, Arthur informs her that he's going to stay with his family and take his father's job. He wonders if she would stay with him, and she says no. She doesn't want to have the life of a housewife taking care of his kids and house while he works at a mediocre job. It's not the life she was raised to dream of. She also angrily tells him that she isn't going to stop her life to wait for him to figure his life out. She yells at him and throws his camera away. Then, she punches and kicks him before leaving him for good. Neither one of them wanted to break up, but they both have strange ways of coping. Arthur closes himself off and Vita lashes out. They need time alone to grieve their parents and figure out what they want to do with their lives. Days go by and Vita receives her inheritance. Her mother left her music sheets to Vita, and she finds out that Ethel used to play too, but she had to leave the dream aside to become a mother. She doesn't understand why she would choose maternity to play music, and Levi explains that at their time, it was expected of them. She also receives £500,000. Meanwhile, Arthur receives his dad's old repair shop and a bag filled with Ron's hair inside. The difference between their inheritances is astounding. While with his family, they decide to let go of Ron now that George passed away. His mother agrees that's the best they can do. They burn Ron's locks of hair and close that part of their family's history. They would always remember him, but it wouldn't be painful anymore. With his head cooler, Arthur tries calling Vita, but she never answers. They try to date other people, but they still like each other and can't move on because of the way they broke up. They never got proper closure. Levi decides to visit Arthur's family. Sarah and he talk about their children, and she mentions that Ron was depressed and he may have unalived himself. It's a surprise for Levi because he thought Ron had passed from heart failure, the same as George. He decides to ask if Sarah wants to do a joint memorial for George and Ethel and even offers to rent a bus for them to go there. She accepts it. Levi also goes talk to Arthur and hands him his letter of acceptance for the art school in London. He explains that Vita sent his animations and they liked them. It's a great opportunity for Arthur to go for his dream, but he refuses it. He also gives Vita the camera she gifted him. In it, there's a video of Arthur saying sorry and how heartbroken he is without Vita in his life. She finds the video cute and funny and decides to call him. They talk a little about their lives and Vita decides to wonder if Arthur is really going to give up his dreams. He says he is. That's the crux of the problem for Vita because she refuses to be with him if he's going to accept his status quo and do nothing about it. He has the opportunity to go to art school and find out what he wants to do in life. She still doesn't understand why he doesn't want to. The next time they meet, it's at their parents' memorial. Arthur's entire family goes. There he sees Vita looking sad and lost in the middle of the crowd. Arthur approaches her with hopes of finally figuring things out between them. He wants her back, but he doesn't know what to do to make her happy. They share some jokes and Vita tells him that she decided to give up being a cellist. Her mother's passing made her see that life is too short to follow what people want you to do. She decided she wants to be a doctor, like her dad. Arthur apologizes to her again and says that he doesn't want to be away from her anymore. Vita is perturbed because she likes him. Despite their differences and their constant arguments, she loved him. The problem is that she doesn't want to let herself go to be with Arthur. She has too much self-love for that. Arthur asks her for a kiss, but she hugs him. It's emotional and feels like goodbye for good. When Arthur goes to the restroom later on, he meets Adam, Vita's older brother. He's wasted and confesses that he's gay, something that he kept secret because Ethel wouldn't approve. Leon enters the restroom and Adam thinks it's a good idea to poke fun at him. Leon advances toward Adam and Arthur tries to separate them and keep Adam away. Adam changes his focus to Arthur, then, and wonders if after he slept with his sister, she stopped being enough for him. Arthur almost hurts him, but Leon stops him and tells him to leave. Arthur knows that Leon is going to hurt Adam and turns around anyway. A few moments later, Vita's sister finds a beaten-up Adam in the restroom and she's mad. They attract the attention of Arthur and his sisters, and they start arguing because Vita's sister is accusing Leon of hurting Adam. Vita questions Arthur and he confirms it. She tells them to leave her house. It's a mess after that. Arthur knows there's no way Vita is going to forgive him or his family. Still, he's not ready to say goodbye to her. He goes to her flat and uses his key to enter when she doesn't open the door for him. The first thing he does when he enters is clean the peanut butter jar that is still on the floor. Vita refuses to talk to him any longer and tells him to pack his bags and leave. Arthur begrudgingly does so, and when he's ready, he finally tells her that he loves her. Vita doesn't say it back. Arthur starts crying and repeating it, with hopes that he's going to melt the ice around her heart. It eventually works. Vita relents, though she doesn't say she loves him too, and they start dancing around the room and telling each other movie quotes. It's absurd. Once again, they pretend there's nothing wrong and move on. They spend the night together and the next day, try to talk about their relationship. Vita isn't willing to waste her time again and she doesn't want to fight. She asks if he believes he's her happy ending, but he replies that he doesn't believe in happy endings. He believes in happy beginnings and thinks that they can last a long time. It's good enough for Vita. If she's being honest, she doesn't want a happy ending. She wants a happy life, and if Arthur can give her that, it's enough for her. They promise to do better in the relationship and never let anything come between them again. They have no idea if it's going to last, but at least they are willing to try. Arthur and Vita don't get a happy ending, but a new beginning for their chaotic relationship.